Welcome back. It is my honor and my pleasure to give you a heads up about what to expect with this week's astrology. I'm Erin, I'm Queen Bee Tarot. Thank you so much for being here. We've got some really volatile energy coming through this week. The main players are Mars, the planet associated with the god of war, and Pluto, the planet associated with power, control, and shadow work. It's going to be really volatile, really interesting. Our egos are going to get triggered, and parts of yourself might come out that you didn't even know were there, or maybe parts of yourself that you try really, really hard to hide. You see, anger ends up being a propellant. We may have a lot of feelings. Depression seems to sit on us and hold us back, whereas anger propels us into action. I'm Erin, I'm Queen Bee Tarot. I'm going to give you detailed horoscopes for all 12 zodiac signs. Timestamps are going to be below. I'm also going to have chapters in the timestamps as well, so that if you want to skip ahead and check out all the different themes that I'm talking about this week, you can definitely do that. I would strongly encourage you to stick around for the general overview. There is a lot to discuss, and it's really important to be prepared because sometimes energies like this can catalyze unexpected and really, really challenging situations. So if beforehand you know that you might be triggered, if you know that your ego might get activated, that way you can be prepared and not necessarily get sucked into a situation that's going to cause difficulty, challenges, or more problems down the road. The energies that are created between Mars and Pluto this week are definitely in the form of a challenge. In astrology, a 90-degree angle is called a square, and what we've got is Mars on one end, Pluto on the other, and this 90-degree angle indicates a challenge formed. Now, each planet in the zodiac in astrology represents an aspect of our personalities or a representation of the energies that we experience out there in the world. Now, Mars is considered to be an inner planet because it's really close to the sun, and the inner planets represent our energy, how we channel our life force, how we deal with stuff that comes up. Now, Mars in particular is associated with ego because it is associated with our life force. It is how we go about achieving our goals. It is how we respond to challenges or confrontations. And it has been said that Mars is the activator through which our sun sign energy is channeled. And so it's really important to kind of pay attention to that dynamic between who I am and how I go about doing what I do, right? Now, the angle and the challenge created is activating Mars, like I said, and then the other one is Pluto. Now, Pluto is way out in the solar system, and it does have associations with our personal relationship with power and control. It's about when we claim our power, when we give it away, and when we sometimes get in our own way because of shadow issues. Now, shadow work is a term coined by Carl Jung, actually, in the realm of psychology. And it's a term used to describe the less desirable qualities of ourselves. Every single human being ever is going to have beautiful qualities, potentially negative qualities, and it is our job as mature, evolved human beings to find that happy medium. If we know ourselves to be angry or volatile or whatever weaknesses we know that we have, the more self-aware we are, the more we can avoid problems because we will modify our own behavior. And Pluto, because it's an outer planet, is not just associated with our personal shadow, but the powers that be, and the ways in which we might find ourselves dealing with some sort of power struggle out there in the world. This dynamic is going to dominate the week. In last week's astrology, I did remind everybody, take advantage of the positive and productive energy last week, because this week it could be a doozy. Now, to add to the Mars-Pluto square that we're going to be experiencing this week, there's also a challenging angle between Mercury and Saturn. Mercury is fresh into Gemini, and Mercury and the Sun are hanging out really close this week. In fact, on Friday, we're going to have a Cazimi. And a Cazimi is when any planet joins up with the Sun. It is an Arabic word that is representative of kind of being in the flame or being in the heart of the sun, like it's burning up. What I'm circling around to is that we as human beings often get stuck in our ways. And when Mercury forms a square to Saturn this week, right after the Mars-Pluto square, when our egos get activated, when we potentially get triggered, when we potentially fight back with people because we're angry about something, the other side of that is that in a state of anger, we often shut off logic. We're often not seeing things very clearly. We're not being humble. We're not being careful. We're really stuck in our own perspectives. And that can be a very stubborn streak that actually makes problems worse or makes conflict last longer. Mercury square Saturn on Wednesday, same thing, 90-degree angle. We've got Mercury representing what we think and how we see the world. And then Saturn is a long time. Saturn is a very heavy, dense planet that is associated with things that are built over a long period of time, whether it's our belief systems or society as a whole, its structures, its systems, and its time. So again, this dynamic between Mercury and Saturn, Mercury is an inner planet. It's what we personally think. It's how we personally communicate. Saturn, outer planet, dealing with the outside world, dealing with structures or systems or restrictions that potentially challenge our mental health or challenge our views or challenge our perspectives. Long story short, this week we may feel as though we are up against a brick wall. Everybody's personal experience is going to be different, especially depending on whatever zodiac sign you identify with. But the idea is that our personal efforts, represented by Mars, are going to come up against other people's efforts or up against the world in some way. And then Mercury square Saturn, how we think, what we want to do, is coming up against rigidity or structures or pushback. So the challenges this week are going to feel as though we are stuck in the mud. Something we're trying to do, something we're trying to accomplish, or something we're trying to say is going to be met with resistance. And resistance, as well as contrast or conflict, this is part of life. And we as humans often get short-sighted, thinking that things should go smoothly, things should be easy. And that is something we all find ourselves saying on a regular basis. Why are things so hard? It sucks, right? And that experience of not wanting reality to be what it is, that's the source of conflict. I heard once that depression is the inability to accept that which is. And although I don't believe in that as a technical description of depression, it's a really interesting way of looking at what it is that causes the most amount of discomfort in our personal experiences in life. It is not being happy with reality. When we are not happy with reality, we are faced with a choice of either change it or accept it, right? If we cannot change it, we have to accept it. If we cannot accept it, we have to change it. But this is the kind of dynamic that we might be facing this week, because there is going to be something that just really bothers you. It could be the behavior of somebody else. It could be an obstacle that you keep experiencing. And the most likely loser in this situation is your mental health, your emotional health. Because that sense of discombobulation inside of you, that irritation, it is the potential, okay, so the potential positive aspect of Mars square Pluto is that it can empower us to really push hard and make whatever it is we want to happen, we can make it happen. But if we do it by antagonizing other people, if we do it by being selfish or egotistical or bulldozing the rest of the world to get our way, that kind of karma is going to circle back to us right quick. So this week, the biggest challenge is going to be regulating our emotions and being as practical and reasonable as we possibly can when it comes to problem solving and solution discovery. Problem solving and solution discovery are literally the exact same thing, but it's all about the perspective. And so this week, we may have a very negative, critical perspective because of Mercury square Saturn. It's very serious, it's very depressed, it's very critical, it's very like, I don't like this, right? But the emotions represented in that experience often lead to feeling stuck in the mud. Whereas if we can accept situations for what they are, or accept people's behavior for what it is, and instead of trying to change it, we're like, you know what, I'm just not going to do this anymore. That can give us freedom. That can give us mental health or breathing room or whatever it is. So like I said, everybody's experience is going to be different, but please do prepare to feel very stubborn, to feel very triggered, and to have to manage a lot of anger or really challenging emotions this week. So whatever coping mechanisms you have in place, please, really plan on utilizing all of your healthiest coping mechanisms, whether it is calling a friend or retreating from the outside world or ice cream or whatever your fancy is. But definitely please do take care of yourself this week. Don't take yourself or other people too seriously. Avoid dangerous people. Avoid dangerous situations. Do not put yourself in the path of destruction if somebody else is like, bleh, this week, right? You don't even want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Create as much breathing room as you possibly can, and this too shall pass. So I'm going to get into individual horoscopes for all 12 zodiac signs. Excuse me. I just want to make sure that I covered everything. Yeah, I think we're ready to jump into horoscopes. Okay. These are written for sun signs and rising signs. If you know both, watch both for extra insight. And in order to know, if you ever wanted to know your rising sign, you could go to any website such as astro.com. That's my favorite astrology website. You punch in your birth information, and what you need to know is what time you were born. And if you have the birth time, that creates a horizon in your birth chart, giving us the rising sign on the left-hand side of your chart. Okay, so starting with Aries Sun and Aries Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. The main players this week, interestingly, have a direct zodiac link to your sign. Mars is the planetary ruler for Aries, and this week Mars is moving into Taurus. Taurus is going to be your second house. So there is going to be an energy of achievement or motion or action when it comes to all things second house. That's either spending or receiving money. It's your relationship with resources, material wealth, prosperity, but also like physical comfort. And you may even also be contemplating your values and themes of trust, themes of respect. So there's a lot going on for you guys, but Mars essentially is going to help you get through boring stuff. Your sun sign is cardinal fire, and Mars is moving into a fixed earth sign. What that means is that you, as an Aries sun or Aries rising, you like inspiration, you like new beginnings, you like starting things. As far as follow through, that gets boring, right? You need freshness in your life. You need variety, spontaneity. And so one thing that you tend to struggle with is when things get boring, when things are dull or repetitive. It's not your jam at all. When Mars moves into Taurus this week, into your second house, Mars is going to help you have stamina for all the boring, not fun stuff in your life. And that is exactly where you need to be focusing your energy right now, is in everyday efforts. You are being invited to really focus on how consistent you are, and kind of realizing that tolerating a certain level of discomfort or boredom is going to be part of life. Things can't always be exciting or dynamic or fun, right? Obviously, I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, but that's the astrological message for you guys this week. Mars in Taurus, forming a challenging square to Pluto in Aquarius, is asking you to continue believing in your dreams and continue believing in what you are ideally trying to manifest, even if you don't necessarily have proof of it yet here right now. With consistency, you will get to where you want to be. Your sign in particular is potentially dealing with a challenge right now where things are boring, things are dull, and you want to give up. And that's all because your sign is cardinal fire. You want inspiration, you want new beginnings, right? The boring stuff, not fun. But that's where you're at. That's what you need to do, is get through the boring stuff, everyday efforts, keep your eyes on the prize, keep that vision really clear, have a vision board. If you're at work, if you're in a cubicle, if things are boring, see what you can do to surround yourself with visual reminders of why you're doing the hard work, whether it's your kids or a picture of the place you want to go on vacation or whatever it is that inspires you. Having visual reminders will help you stay focused on the meaningful goals that you have in your heart. So proof is down the road. Believe in your dreams, even though you're not there yet, and you've got to just get comfortable with the boring parts. Now, the sun joins Mercury in a Cazimi this week, which could potentially bring a flash of inspiration when it comes to personal and professional connections. Maybe it's a word of advice or a word of encouragement that you receive that helps you get stoked for the next leg of the journey. Or it could be a sense that maybe you need a map, maybe you need guidance, or maybe you're going to offer guidance to somebody else that needs it. There's opportunities for you to have some really quality conversations and connections this week, especially when it comes to bringing clarity to where you're at or clarity to where you're going. The Sun and Mercury form a square to Saturn. Saturn's in your 12th house, indicating that you're definitely struggling with some depression or heavy thoughts right now. Like a fog you can't just see, you just can't seem to kick. You know what I mean? This like cloud that follows you, like Eeyore. Like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. That kind of like everywhere you go, there's this like cloud over you. But when the Sun and Mercury join up this week, it's an opportunity for you to kind of see outside of the box. You might be inspired to just take a little day trip, a short little adventure, or calling up a friend, or watching a documentary. But as much as you seek out the information or seek out that inspiration, it will be there for you. Just try your best not to get stuck in your head or stuck in some really stagnant emotions, because that's not going to be healthy or productive. Anything you can do to keep yourself inspired, keep yourself on task, keep yourself motivated. The light is at the end of the tunnel, but you are in the middle of the journey. So keep up the good work, keep believing in yourselves, and I hope you guys have an amazing week. If your ego gets triggered this week, if you feel like having an outburst, if you have a moment of wanting to be like, I quit, breathe into a paper bag or journal, or call somebody up that you can be like, you know what I mean? But don't say anything you regret this week. Don't make any major decisions in a moment of anger or frustration. Please remember that this too shall pass, and you will have clarity if you let the big emotions fade before trying to make a decision. Wait for peace, and then things will be clear. Okay? I hope you guys have a great week. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time. I better set a timer. Okay. I always lose track of how long I'm talking, so I'm gonna set a timer this time. Taurus Sun and Taurus Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. There's a lot of action happening, and the planet of action, Mars, is moving into your sign this week. When Mars moves into your sign, whether you're a Taurus Sun or a Taurus Rising, there's an association of you yourself being empowered. Now, sometimes the feeling of being empowered is awesome, especially if you've been tired or unmotivated or feeling sluggish. You're going to feel it like a boost to your physical, emotional, and mental energy. It'll be awesome. The challenge is sometimes when Mars enters your sign, sometimes the experience can be like being full of electricity and not knowing what to do with it. So if you end up feeling really uncomfortable or twitchy or just, you know what I mean? Like you want to crawl out of your skin, I can only highly, highly recommend physical exercise in one form of another. So depending on your physical abilities, that could be maybe sitting in a chair, wiggling your toes, doing a flex and release with your hands, your toes, flex and release. That can help us resolve any energy or tension. Also, straight arm across the chest and just pull will stretch out that area between your shoulder blades. So straight arm across and pull. Feels amazing. Or like even a heavy hand, don't pull, but just like let your hand rest on your neck like that, or on your head, and just a gentle amount of tension will stretch out the sides of the neck. But like I said, not too heavy, just a gentle. I'm showing you all these physical exercises because you, as a Taurus sun or Taurus rising, are very deeply connected to your physical body. And often when you have strong emotions, you feel it in your body. When you are stressed out, it's your body that suffers. So as much as you can, you want to be as proactive as possible. Physical exercise, either stretching or going for a jog if you're capable, going for a swim, anything like that. Move your physical body to release the excess energy that you're going to experience over the next few weeks. Now, the bonus is that Mars is going to help you be not only more energized, but also more empowered. And along those lines, more aligned with your authentic self. Over the past month or so, Mars has been moving through Aries, which is your 12th house. The 12th house is kind of like this sense of mystery. So over the past month or so, you may have felt like the energy you needed wasn't there, or the motivation you thought you needed or really wanted to have, it was just kind of out of sight or out of reach. Whereas now Mars moving into your sign is like, boom, I'm ready, let's go, right? So super powered kind of energy for you guys over the next few weeks. Now, the challenge is that Mars is going to form a square, which is like an obstacle with Pluto. So for you guys, that's going to be a square to your 10th house. And the question for you is going to be about whether or not you give people power. Pluto represents power and control in all different forms. When we claim it, when we give it away, when it's taken from us. But in this situation, Mars square Pluto is going to invite you to be really, really mindful about co-creating reality with people. So sometimes when we are avoiding confrontation or we just don't feel like arguing, we'll just be like, okay, yep. But right there, I just validated somebody else's reality. Inside of my head, I might have been like, whatever. But that's not what came out of my mouth. What came out of my mouth was, yeah, okay. And so we have to be really, really mindful about how we give any kind of confirmation or validation when in fact, that's not how we feel and that's not what we think. The missing piece for you guys is going to be about the reality that you co-create with people, either with your intentions, with your energy, with your words, or any other form of validation, confirmation, or connection. Now, a lot of the times we may be fooled into thinking that this is the reality when in fact it's not. And so part of your experience might be looking for clarity, looking for clarification, and then being like, wait a minute, I don't agree with this, or wait a minute, that person is totally wrong, or I don't want to do that thing that everybody else is doing. So your individuality is going to come up against some sort of agreed upon reality, whether that's between you and one other person, or whether that's more of a group thing or otherwise. And when the sun joins Mercury this week in a Cazimi, it could be a flash of realization or inspiration or some sort of proof, because the Cazimi is going to happen in your second house. And so that's going to be some sort of a tangible experience. You may realize with either a word or seeing something or hearing something in your reality is going to either confirm or deny that agreed upon reality. And then you're faced with a choice. Do I want to continue validating this when I don't believe in it or I don't agree with it? Or am I going to respond by walking away, disagreeing? The approach is going to be entirely up to you. What's at stake here is trust and comfort levels. And this may have been building up for quite some time. You may have had a situation where something just didn't feel right, but you didn't know what it was. You didn't know what to do with it. The moment of clarity is going to come this week. That in itself opens a can of worms, because then you have to decide what to do with that clarity. but that's that's for you to sort out, right? You're getting serious about your mission. You're getting serious about your ideals. And the big thing that's going to shift for you over the next few weeks with Mars being in your sign, is you're going to have no tolerance for bullshit, no tolerance for people that just seek validation. You're not going to want to play any of those social games. You're not going to want to say anything that you don't mean. You're going to really be pulling back your energy this week and deciding for yourself when and where you're giving your power away by validating someone's reality. Should be really interesting. Definitely a bit of a volatile energy this week. You do not want to respond by exploding, but you do want to stand firm in what you believe in whatever way is safest for you as an individual. So good luck out there, you guys. I hope you have an amazing week. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next time. Gemini Sun and Gemini Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. Ongoing birthday season for you guys. If you are a Gemini Sun, happy birthday to any Geminis that are having their birthday this week. You guys, okay, so your sign, Gemini, whether you're a Gemini Sun or Gemini Rising, the dominant energy, it's called mutable air. You're an air sign, and Gemini comes at the end of a season. So that's about connection, cooperation, closure, and dealing with what has been manifested, thinking about transition, thinking about helping and supporting. But what's interesting is that Mars moves into Taurus this week, and that is a fixed earth sign. So a lot of what Gemini represents is all things conceptual, all things conversational, but this just words. And your experience this week, I'm like laughing to myself thinking about this phrase. I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase before. Throwing spaghetti to a wall and seeing what sticks. It's a really funny metaphor for tossing a bunch of ideas around and seeing what sticks. Like I said, Gemini energy is very conceptual and conversational. But when Mars moves into Taurus this week, which is a fixed earth sign, it's about, okay, lots of ideas, that's great, but what is realistic? What of those ideas or concepts or conversations can we turn into an actual reality? You're done with ideas at this point. There's been a lot of ideas thrown around, and you're ready for action. You really want to take action, but the problem is that you're still seeking clarity. You're still trying to sift through a bunch of ideas, and it's almost like there's a phrase, it's called analysis paralysis. So sometimes when we're trying to make a decision, or we're trying to do research or whatever, and we seek out information, sometimes what happens is that the more information we get, the more we feel overwhelmed, and we actually become less clear. So that's analysis paralysis. It's almost like too much information, too many ideas. Now it's time to throw some spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. So Mars is going to help you be more realistic and practical. Mars is going to help you over the next few weeks really kind of establish some sort of concrete plan of action and bring at least one of those ideas and concepts into reality, something that you can turn into a plan of action. It's going to help you take some solid, practical, realistic steps moving forwards. What you are working with when Mars forms a square to Pluto this week is going to really bring to your attention all the ways in which you are really struggling inside of your headspace, whether it is feeling like you're out of options, maybe you're feeling depressed, maybe you're feeling limited. Your energy, you're going to be struggling with hope. You're going to be feeling overwhelmed this week. And you might even need some practical advice from somebody who is outside of the situation and can perhaps see a little bit more clearly than you, because you're a little bit inundated right now, and there's definitely a lack of clarity. Because Mars is moving through your 12th house over the next few weeks, you can look forward to solution discovery. You can look forward to finding that clarity, but it's going to be like sorting through a whole bunch of mess and really getting down to the nitty gritty to figure out what's going to work for you. So it's a great time to implement new or even tried and true coping mechanisms. Please do take care of yourself when it comes to any depression or, you know, challenging mental health issues that come up for you this week. If you are really struggling on a mental health way, please call a crisis line. Please look into finding support for yourself. Sometimes our minds trick us into thinking that things are really bad, when in fact we're really just exhausted. And sometimes the feeling that there isn't hope is simply because we're just really tired and we've lost the ability to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So if you feel like that describes you, please do anything you possibly can to re-inspire that hope, that desire for hope. Call a friend, call a crisis line, right? You might feel really challenged this week. So I just want you to know it's important to take care of yourself, and don't take yourself too seriously. If your headspace starts to get really yucky, go outside and look for shapes in the clouds, right? Bring back your inner child. Bring back your inner child, let go of the serious stuff for a little bit and just get silly. Maybe do some karaoke. The different direction that is opening up for you is about, like I said, throwing some spaghetti to the wall and seeing what sticks. And what that's going to look like is potentially different course of action moving forwards. There's a lot of ego energies involved. There's some sort of ongoing conflict that you've been having to work through. And one of the biggest things that's coming up is that you and the other parties involved all have conflicting goals. And sometimes we can find common ground, and sometimes it feels very hard to find common ground. Don't necessarily compromise any of your boundaries or your needs or anything like that to make peace when it's going to end up not working for you. But it may help to approach things from the direction of, you know, you'll catch more flies with honey than you will with vinegar, or whatever that phrase is. I know I'm throwing a million metaphors at you guys this week, but definitely there is a risk of feeling critical and depressed. There's a risk of giving up. There's a need for seeing outside of your perspective. There's a need for getting fired up and re-inspired, and you might just need to call a friend to help you pull that together, but you're worth it. And this too shall pass. It's just going to be a really challenging week. But on the other side of this week, we have a full moon. So keep the hope alive. And I hope you guys have an amazing week. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you next time. Cancer Sun and Cancer Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. Mars is moving into Taurus this week. Now, Mars is a fixed earth sign, and you are a cardinal water sign. So what that means is that your zodiac sign, Cancer, and this is either if you're a Cancer Sun or Cancer Rising, it doesn't matter. This is kind of like your dominant energy. Cardinal means that you start a season. And of course, you're a water sign. So you're all about new beginnings. You're all about keeping your emotions, your inspiration, and your intuition fresh, right? And what you really feel challenged by is when things feel stagnant. You need like moving water, right? Healthy water is moving water. Standing water grows bacteria. So using a metaphor like that, Mars is going to help you guys restoke your inspiration in a two-part process by helping you get inspired, by helping you find your footing and find your grounding again. And sometimes that's going to be through healthy routines. We all have little habits sometimes that help us get grounded out, that help us recenter. For some people, it is their favorite TV show. For some people, it's making a cup of tea. Whenever your little 5-minute, 15-minute routine is to be able to kind of get yourself grounded, some sort of self-care, self-soothing practice that you have, it's all about taking as many breaks as you need throughout the day to kind of recenter, do that self-care routine, whatever it is, and then re-enter your day. There's a risk of pushing too hard and becoming exhausted and burning out. So if you need to take little journeys and then take a break, little journey, take a break, little journey, take a break, break up your day into smaller segments, and that could make things a little bit easier for you to get through. Mars is going to be moving through your 11th house, which is going to help you get back in touch with your creativity. It's going to help you get back in touch with hope. And it's going to help you kind of be able to take your creative inspiration or maybe any overwhelming emotions and birth it into some sort of creative process, manifesting something, building something, helping somebody, or turning it into creativity. And for you to be able to kind of bring what's in here out into here allows you to bless it and release it as well. It's a huge part of what makes creativity so healing, is that we get it out of ourselves. So adaptation is key. You may find yourself needing new coping mechanisms. You may find that the old ways in which you used to self-soothe, you might find that those don't work for you anymore. And so instead of going back to any old empty habits that just aren't working, maybe start new ones. Anything that you can find that allows you to kind of deal with your current situation, make it work for you in some way. And just remember, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. Take lots of breaks if you need. The challenge for you guys this week, especially with Mars or Mercury square Saturn, is a very depressed, very cynical, very critical energy. And you are probably going to struggle. Out of all the zodiac signs, you guys are at risk of struggling the most this week, simply because Mercury's in your 12th house, indicating some sort of depression that feels like a fog. Like, you know how in Winnie the Pooh, Eeyore would have this like cloud following him everywhere he went? That's the energy of Mercury square Saturn in your chart right now. It's a depressed outlook. You need a refresher. And if you're interested, tuning into some sort of fantasy so that you can disassociate from your reality in a healthy way, like read a book, read a novel, watch a Studio Ghibli movie, right? Anything at all so that your soft, beautiful heart can just get lost in some light fantasy and storytelling, maybe even something that has a hero. You know what I mean? Something that's going to inspire you, whether you read or watch something where somebody overcomes adversity and becomes their own hero, something like that. You know what I mean? There's going to be a crossover between fantasy and reality that allows you to be inspired, restoke your creativity, and get realigned with your healthiest, highest path. This too shall pass. And I know that you guys, because of your inherent water sign, often what comes through for you guys is more along the lines of depression. And depression is heavy. Depression prevents movement. And depression keeps us stagnant. Whereas Mars, which sometimes activates anger, we want to use it, not lose it. But anger is inspiring. Anger promotes activity. Anger promotes change. And so if you find an appropriate moment this week, channeling your anger in a healthy or productive way can help you possibly push past this dark cloud of depression and find the sunlight on the other side. It might be physical exercise, might be screaming into a pillow, it might be watching a fantasy movie, whatever works for you guys. But definitely please do take care of yourselves. Remember that this too shall pass, and anger, use it, but don't lose it. Can be incredibly productive and helpful in the right circumstances, right? Mwah! Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you guys next time. Leo Sun and Leo Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. This week, Mars moves into Taurus. Now, it has been said that Mars helps us express and channel our sun sign energy. Now, Mars is moving into a fixed earth sign, and you are a fixed fire sign. So a fixed sign is a zodiac sign that occurs in the middle of a season. It means that you thrive with consistency. You like it when things are predictable. You like it when things stay the same. You're not a huge fan of change, especially if it's been imposed. But if you have decided that you're ready for change, then sometimes it's okay. But Mars is going to help you be more healthy, more grounded, and more practical. Mars is going to be moving through your 10th house over the next few weeks. Your 10th house is the reality that you create, the pathway that you are intentionally walking, whether it be manifestations, your career, your long-term goals, anything like that. And so because Mars is moving into your 10th house, it's quite possible that you have just achieved some sort of realization, new understanding, or new idea. And now what's happening is you're putting that idea or that plan or that realization into action. So what's happening for you guys over the next few weeks is activating that. Put those plans into action. Take those first steps. Initiate that movement. Get some momentum happening. It's about bringing your inspiration, your ideas, your passion, and implementing it into some sort of a realistic plan, especially a plan that is one that you intend on implementing for quite some time. 10th house is the longer you can give it, the stronger it will be. So definitely don't give up too fast if it doesn't work out right away. This is a really important opportunity for you guys to make some magic happen, create a new reality, create stability for yourself in a way that maybe you've never had before. And when Mars creates a square, a challenging angle to Pluto this week in the 7th house, you may find yourself up against the goals and plans of other people. You know, it's one thing to be like, okay, cool, I'm going to do this new thing, right? But if you've got a partner or a roommate or a bestie or somebody in your life that's like, wait, I'm not ready. Or wait, don't do the thing. Or, you know what I mean? You might be like, don't tell me what to do. There's a really high risk for your zodiac sign this week when it comes to arguing with partners or arguing with someone that's close to you. Could be a personal or a professional connection. The theme is balance. And if you're like super motivated and ready to get something done, you're going to be really, really, really irritated if somebody makes you stop or asks you to change direction or something like that. You're going to be like, no. And it might come out in a really, really fiery way. So avoid arguments this week. If something comes up where your goals are different than the goals of the people around you, have a conversation, see if you can find some middle ground, but don't give up on your dream. One thing that I learned a long time ago is that plans that depend on other people are not really plans. And literally every single time I have ever decided to not do something or to wait because I was waiting for somebody else, every single time I regretted it. And you might find that you've had that experience as well. So you are going to have to balance your needs as an individual against the needs of the collective or the group or the partnership. But I can't say this enough. There's something opening up for you and you don't want to quit what you've got going. Don't stop your plans that are now in motion unless given a really good reason to. If it's just somebody else's opinion or whatever, then let it go. They can think whatever they want. You keep doing what you're doing, okay? There's also another challenging, stressful angle this week between Mercury, which is how we think, and Saturn, which is Captain Sirius. And so that means that somebody in your group, some sort of group dynamic, some sort of outside opinion is going to bring seriousness when it comes to the concept of what you share. You know, it might be brought to your attention that as much as you have a dream or something you want to work on, your actions, your decisions affect other people. And again, we're seeing echoed in a couple of different places in your chart this week that something, somehow, some way is going to say, hey, don't do the thing, or hey, whatever it is that you're planning on doing, it might affect other people. The choice is going to be yours about whether or not to listen. The choice is going to be yours to have to evaluate whether or not that other person's opinion or perspective even matters. You're going to have to be able to stand strong in your vision and make a really careful decision about whether or not whatever the outside perspective has to say about whether or not it matters to you, and whether or not it's information that you should really take into consideration, or whether or not it doesn't matter at all. So everybody's experience is going to be different, but that's the long and the short of it, is that you're like ready to go, and something outside of you this week is going to be like, hey, wait, what happens next? That's free will. It's entirely up to you. So good luck, you guys. I hope you have an amazing week. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Virgo sun and Virgo rising, welcome to your horoscopes. This week, Mars moves into Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign just like yourself. But the difference is that anybody who's a Virgo sun or Virgo rising, Virgo is the zodiac sign that occurs at the end of the, the end of the summer. It's, I'm confusing myself here. It's a mutable earth sign. Mutable means it occurs at the end of a season. So it's the sign that is wrapping up the summer. Virgo is associated with harvest. It's about like, okay, everything else has already been accomplished. I'm going to sort it. I'm going to organize it. I'm going to make sure that all the dots connect, and I'm going to tie up the loose ends, right? And the thing about Mars moving into Taurus, that's a fixed earth sign. Fixed signs happen in the middle of a season. It's about establishing and maintaining consistency. And so what you're going to be invited to do over the next few weeks is Mars is going to help you get really consistent when it comes to implementing your goals. You may love new beginnings. You may love the sense that something is wrapping up or ending. You like gathering information. You like analyzing and understanding. But what you often struggle with is boring stuff. And even though your zodiac sign is associated with daily routines, everybody gets bored at some point, right? And you may find that Mars being in Taurus over the next few weeks, you may find that it feels boring for you because it's not your modality to be fixed. It is your modality to continually adapt. And there's an element of movement. So while Mars is moving through Taurus over the next few weeks, you are going to feel like things aren't moving. You're going to feel like things are really stagnant or boring or predictable, and you might get so twitchy that you want to abandon responsibilities or shake things up just for the fun of it. It's going to be a challenge for you to kind of buckle down, just get consistent, get practical, get so used to your routines that it's like no thing at all. If you can reduce how much time it takes you to do stuff, if you can reach a level of mastery when it comes to all this boring stuff, what you'll find after Mars finishes its journey through Taurus, what you're going to find is that not only have you reached a level of mastery, but now all these things that used to take you a long time, minutes. And you've opened up a huge amount of time so that by the time Mars moves into the next zodiac sign, you're going to be like ready to bring something new into your life. But right here, right now, it's time to get comfortable with being boring. It's time to get comfortable with consistency and routine, putting everything you've learned, everything you've practiced, everything that you've birthed. Now you have to put it into practical reality, implementing it every single day. It is all about patterns in your everyday behavior, and one thing that you're being invited to really pay attention to is what the heck is happening inside of your head. Are you talking to yourself a lot? Are you ranting and raving? Are you thinking about things of a critical nature? Are you being judgy of yourself or others? That's going to be what you're going to be paying attention to this week, because your planetary ruler, Mercury, is forming a square to very, very serious Saturn. And you may find that your headspace takes a really dark or critical or depressed turn this week. And sometimes when we're bored, that's when we start to think sideways thoughts, right? If you find that you are bored, instead of throwing everything out the window, see what you can do to inspire yourself on small levels. Getting creative, finding some new music to listen to, going for a walk in a different place, switching up little things in your daily routine as far as what you eat, what you do, what you listen to, who you interact with. That in itself could possibly provide you with enough variety that you don't feel like dropping an atom bomb on your routine because you're so bored out of your mind. So, like I said, see what you can do to get good, get quick, reach a level of mastery, get comfortable with boring routine, bring little bits of variety into your day, but it is awareness that is going to create balance for you. Nurturing yourself, noticing what's happening up here, be honest, be healthy, be mindful, and definitely do your best to not get too triggered. This could be one of those weeks where you just tell somebody what you really think. But if you do that, they might tell you what they really think. So be careful not to get in a meh with anybody else this week. Definitely going to blow up in your face, definitely going to go sideways, and it's definitely not going to go the way that you think it is. So sometimes thoughts are better kept up here, but if you have a lot of thoughts happening up here, definitely time to take a look at that and figure out why. See if maybe your ego is just running rampant, or if you're genuinely dealing with so many issues and so many troublesome people that it's like inside of your headspace, then it's time to seek resolution instead of being so stressed out or spinning all the time. So just remember, this too shall pass. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time. Libra Sun and Libra Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. This week, Mars moves into Taurus, and Mars spends about a month or so in each zodiac sign. Some zodiac signs less than others, but what's going to happen is that Mars is going to be moving through your 8th house. Now, Mars traditionally was associated with Scorpio. Scorpio rules the 8th house. You may have an experience much like feeling like Mars is in Scorpio for you. Mars is in your 8th house, which means that some sort of deep emotions from way below could be coming out right now. Maybe you've been triggered so much that you're having some trauma responses come up. Or maybe it just ends up being one of those weeks that like everybody pushes your buttons and your shadow just comes right out. Your ego is going to come out, but your ego is going to come with a whole list of grievances. We don't want to feed the ego. We don't want to give the ego a microphone and a podium to stand on so they can make a speech, but we will take their list of grievances and we will give it due consideration. Does that make sense? So you want to evaluate and consider all of the information that your shadow brings you this week, but you want to be very, very careful to evaluate that information in private, because you're going to be so tempted to give somebody an earful. And sometimes what happens is if we're like, let's say we're angry with person A over here, but what if we don't have an opportunity to tell them? Or what if we don't have, a relationship in which we can really air our grievances? Well, you know what happens? In our heads, we're like grumble, 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 grumble. And then some stranger bumps into us and we go, blah, 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 right? Misspent anger, misdirected, misguided energy. It's really important to pay attention to any energy or resentment that's bubbling up inside of you and make sure to give it an appropriate, healthy outlet, or else the risk this week is that you're just going to blow up at somebody who has absolutely nothing to do with it. Does that make sense? But like I said, pay attention to the list of grievances that your shadow brings you. There's really useful information in there. Just don't give your shadow the microphone. You may be pondering a lack of joy. You may be pondering or bemoaning a lack of pleasure. This is going to be a week in which you are going to be looking almost completely on the dark side. You're going to be wildly critical. You're going to be feeling really depressed, quite possibly anxious. This week's energy may have the effect on your particular zodiac sign of, honest to God, bringing out the absolute worst in you. And so it's really, really important to know that ahead of time so that you are able to look at that and go, wow, I'm feeling really angry. This is not who I usually am. And if I feel like I've been pushed past the brink, let's take a step back and figure out why. Let's look at that list of grievances, right? And let's figure out what we can do about that list of grievances so that there isn't an angry person inside of me just waiting to yell at somebody, right? We all get there. Every single freaking one of us is going to get there, right? It just so happens that this week's your week. Sorry, really sorry. The more that you can brainstorm, the more that, like, your sign, Libra Sun or Libra Rising, your sign loves information. You love facts. You love being able to talk out your experience, right? So as much as you can, try and create opportunities for yourself to be able to get this stuff off of your chest. You're going to want to, if you look for advice, if you look for somebody to talk to, you're going to want to find the most intelligent, capable person that you know, because you're not going to have any tolerance for anybody's BS or, oh, it's fine, don't be mad. You're going to like punch people like that in the face. You know what I mean? You need somebody who's going to be like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's be realistic. Let's come up with some really intelligent, practical solutions. That's going to be your vibe this week. So seek out a no bullshit friend. Seek out as many opportunities as you can to learn about yourself, to learn about your situation, to learn about potential solutions to what's bothering you. Therapy is amazing. If you can get a counselor or a therapist or anything along those lines, definitely look into that as well. As much as you can, ideas to improve your day-to-day life are going to help a lot. Never underestimate the effect of a small, beautiful thing in your life, whether it be one flower in your kitchen that fills up your whole house with a beautiful smell. You know, even at the grocery store, we can grab a flower for pretty cheap, right? I know everybody's funds are limited right now, but if you can treat yourself, do it. Fancy coffee, a flower, you know, like call in sick at work if you're absolutely laid up and miserable, that sort of thing. As much as you can, take care of yourself. Focus on emotional regulation, focus on therapy, journaling, finding new solutions to whatever it is you're dealing with. You are going to be very serious and focused and critical, so please don't take yourself too seriously. And just remember, this too shall pass. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Thank you for being here. Good luck out there, and I will see you next time. Scorpio Sun and Scorpio Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. This week, Mars moves into Taurus, and that's really important for you guys because Mars takes approximately 2 years to make a journey around the zodiac. You guys are at Scorpio, Taurus is the opposite point. So what that means is that whatever goals you started approximately 1 year ago, now is kind of the midpoint. Now is a great opportunity to think about those goals, think about your efforts, think about all that it is that you do with your life force. And this is a halfway point in which you can evaluate, recalibrate, and think about the last leg of your journey for the next year. So again, think back to approximately 1 year ago. Think about whatever goals or projects or self-improvement things that you initiated at that time. This is your halfway point with Mars moving through Taurus. So you are a fixed water sign and Taurus is fixed earth. One of the things that might come up for you is any ways in which you are stuck, any ways in which you are stagnant or repeating yourself or repeating the same efforts. We can't do the same thing over and over and expect different results. So if for any reason you're not happy with the results, if you're evaluating things and you're like, man, this is not where I want to be, this is an opportunity to think, where am I too fixed? Where am I too fixed in my ways? Where am I too stubborn? Where am I too stagnant? Where am I just repeating myself like I am right now, right? Mars is going to show you also where you lack stability. You know, doing things on a hope and a prayer, sometimes that gets us part way, right? But what you might realize is that maybe you need a little more practicality. Maybe you need more stability or consistency. As a water sign, you much prefer to just kind of go with the flow and adapt as needed. But with Mars moving into an earth sign, there's a sense of now you've reached solid ground. Is this the solid ground that you were hoping for? And if not, where would you like to move from here? It's going to take intention to get you the rest of the way. It's going to take action to get you the rest of the way, not just inspiration. The other thing that's coming up for you, because Mars is going to create a square, a challenging angle to Pluto. Pluto is your planetary ruler in modern astrology. Mars was your planetary ruler in traditional astrology before Pluto was discovered. these two planetary rulers of yours being in a square represents a sense of internal conflict in your life, and a sense that maybe you feel like you're up against some sort of a brick wall, or maybe you're experiencing a glass ceiling, like you feel like you just can't get ahead, but you don't know what you're bumping into. Seeking clarity as much as you possibly can is going to help, and also making sure that you have solid ground or stable footing, right? We can't build a building if we don't have a solid foundation. If your building efforts are not coming to fruition, take a step back and look at your foundation. Is your foundation stable? And if not, you might want to go back a few steps so that you can go forward a few steps. Your emotional health is incredibly important. And, you know, routines are incredibly helpful for our brains to kind of lock into and relax. If we have too much variety, it actually creates a stress response that can really degrade our physical health over a long period of time. I know you guys love spontaneity and stuff like that, but what you might find is that you need more stability, more routines, and more predictability. So if you find yourself at one end of a spectrum, you might want to rebalance by the other, not to just go straight over there, but to find that happy medium, right? This week, Mercury forms a square to Saturn, bringing a really critical, heavy, serious energy to all of us. And for you guys, it's going to activate your 8th and 5th houses. One thing that might come up is inner child themes. And one other thing that might come up is unhealthy spending habits. They're both associated with the 8th and the 5th houses. The 8th house is generational and repeating karma, life, death, and rebirth. And the 5th house is play, joy, our childhood, stuff like that. So what happens when there's a square between Mercury in your 8th house and Saturn in your 5th house is that in your head, you're like thinking about these patterns, thinking about energy exchanges, but you seem to be locked into something that you can't necessarily let go of. So maybe it is that you prioritize joy too much and then you don't have money for groceries because you spent it all on partying. Or maybe you focus too much on having enough money to pay your bills and you don't do enough fun, joyful stuff. There might be a challenge, a conflict, a sense of polarization between you trying to be a really mature adult and also wanting to have some freaking fun, right? And if you didn't get much of a childhood, you need to nurture your inner child right now. Or if you don't have enough seriousness and commitment in your life, it might be one of those moments where you're like, I really got to just kind of buckle down and, you know, like act with a little bit more maturity. So like I said, everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different, but that's what's going on. And I want to stress how important it is to let go in order to receive. If we're not happy with how things are, we have to be willing to let go of something or end or close something so that we can move into something new. We can't drag the past with us and then be like, how come things aren't different, right? Okay, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Good luck out there. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Sagittarius Sun and Sagittarius Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. This week, Mars moves into Taurus, and Taurus is a fixed earth sign. You guys are a mutable fire sign. So you love understanding. You love when everything kind of comes together and everybody participates in co-inspiration. You love working with groups, working with crowds. You love feeling the fire, right? But as Mars moves through fixed earth sign Taurus, you're being invited to kind of really buckle down when it comes to the nitty-gritty, when it comes to the boring details of daily routine. Basically, Mars is going to help you be a healthy level of stubborn or practical, whichever one you really need right now, in order to really work on your consistency, right? It is so typical for us humans, right? If we try something a couple of times and we're just not very good at it, we're likely to give up, right? if we don't find success right away, it's very, very tempting to give up and be like, okay, maybe this isn't for me, right? But our ability to manifest the reality that we want is entirely dependent on our willingness to tolerate the opposite. So like in order to save money, we have to budget. Budgeting makes us feel poor, but what we're doing is we're actually saving money, right? Or if I want to become a master or an expert at something, that means that I have to be a novice for a really long time. I have to screw up. I have to suck at something for a long time before I get to be a master, right? And so that's kind of the fine line that you're treading. And it's not that I'm telling you anything that you don't already know, but I'm just letting you know the energy of Mars moving through Taurus, that it may feel boring, but what you're doing is you're being given an opportunity to really kind of get serious, get practical, get consistent. And then after Mars moves out of Taurus, you're going to have kind of like this explosion of like results or manifestations or some sort of fruit from your efforts, right? Basically, yeah. And it's also really important because Mars forms a square to Pluto. The warning for you guys is please be really mindful how you talk to yourself inside of your head and the words that you use to describe things. So for example, say I'm learning, I'm a novice, I'm really not good at something. If I describe myself in a very self-deprecating way, if I'm like, oh, I fucking suck at this, I'm such a loser, not only are my friends gonna have a really hard time listening to that, but that also just lowered my vibration, like boom, boom, boom. It's not inspiring, it's not helpful, right? So even if you feel that way, and that's going to be the temptation, we want to express our emotions. We want to say what feels true to our hearts. What I could say in that situation is, I'm struggling, I'm learning. The material that I'm learning is challenging and I am feeling very challenged. I am feeling very discouraged, but I'm going to keep trying. And I am going to give this my absolute best, and I believe in myself, and I'm excited to see what happens, right? So if you find that you're having really negative, really critical, really depressed thoughts come through your headspace this week, they're going to be amplified by Mercury square Saturn towards the end of the week, but really Wednesday, Thursday is going to be the worst of it for sure. And so if you find that the ways in which you're describing yourself or the ways in which you're describing your life or your world, if you find that those are like really negative words or thoughts, check yourself for a second and be like, okay, might be true, but it's not necessary, it's not kind, and it's not helpful. Before words pass through your mouth, always ask, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? What is true is not necessarily necessary or kind, right? Yeah, the intention is everything. The intention behind your words, the intention behind your actions, the intention behind your dreams, your goals, your ideas. It's really important to remember that everybody starts small. Everybody's gonna suck the first time you try something, right? And if you just give yourself the time, if your goal is balance, if your goal is harmony, if your goal is health, try not to make your goal perfection, right? What you need to do is just remember one step at a time, believe in yourself. Your best is going to be different every day. Your best is going to change depending on the weather, your mood, your health, your hormones, whatever it is, right? So just remember to do your best, but allow your best to be different every day. And don't expect perfection. Just look for progress, right? A little bit of progress every day, and that's what's going to make the dream come true. So I hope you guys have an amazing week out there. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next time. Okay. Capricorn Sun and Capricorn Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. This week, Mars moves into fellow Earth sign Taurus. And you guys are known as a cardinal Earth sign. It's because your Earth sign started a season. So you like starts, you like new beginnings, you like the idea, the fresh inspiration, and the feeling of getting something going, right? But Mars represents action. And being in Taurus, which is a fixed earth sign, Mars is going to be inviting all of us over the next few weeks to get consistent, to get comfortable with boring, because it is consistent effort applied over a long period of time that really manifests our dreams. It's very rarely a one-shot deal, or, you know what I mean? So as much as you can, you're gonna have to make peace with the boring, the consistent, the everyday efforts. So Mars is gonna help you find that stamina and apply that stamina in your everyday life, and as much as you can to find little ways to experience joy within your routines. Like one thing I do with my kids is every Friday we go get Friday treats. So we'll go get like a candy or a soda or something like that. So any kind of like little rewards to get you through a day or get you through the week, that's going to be really important, because one of the big things coming through for you is your spending habits. With Pluto moving through your second house, you may justify a lot of expenses that actually you don't need to be spending money on. It would be really, really helpful for you to kind of take a step back and think about all the situations in which you think you have to spend money on something. So for example, in this day and age, you can access pretty much anything when it comes to movies or TV shows without paying for Netflix, without paying for, you know, Disney Plus or any of that stuff, right? If you look at your monthly expenses, there's probably a lot of stuff that you could eliminate instead of saying, oh, I have to. Or if you justify getting takeout every day or every other day because you're like, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to make dinner. Well, that's a personal choice, but then at the end of the month, if you don't have enough money to go around, that should be one of those things on the chopping block, and maybe you shouldn't keep justifying that as an expense. You know what I mean? Maybe you need to look into meal prep. You know, on one day of the week, like a Sunday, like prep a few different meals so that later in the week when you're really busy and really tired, you could just pull something out of the freezer and you're good to go, right? So definitely think about your expenses, think about what it is that you justify spending money on, and then question that. Is it real or is it imagined? Can you deal with less? Can you adapt or modify? Because the idea is that you want to get ahead. You don't want to just be working to survive. It would be ideal if we could thrive somewhere in there. Now, of course, you know, the fact of the matter is that the cost of living is insane. And 99% of us are struggling to make ends meet because everything just costs more money, right? But what I'm bringing up is outside of basic living expenses. Look at the luxuries. Look at the extras. Look at the stuff that maybe you justify, but you don't really need to be spending money on. That's what I'm talking about, right? Not the basic food stuff. If you get serious about budgeting, if you get serious about healthy choices, and you create a plan and stick with it, you're going to be able to see some incredible results in not that long at all. This week is going to feel challenging because something might come up. Maybe it's a bill that you forgot about. Maybe it's the realization that your budget is really tight. So something is going to come up in your awareness, in your attention, in your life this week that is going to make you feel very serious. And it might even make you feel disempowered. It might even make you feel defeated on some level. So validate those emotions, hold space for those emotions, and then take a step back and go, okay, how can I really, really budget? How can I take a solid look, a really clear look at my expenses? What's coming in? Where is it going out? And how can I potentially rearrange my financial world to give myself a little bit more breathing room, right? So good luck out there, you guys. I hope you have an amazing week. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time. The Aquarius Sun and Aquarius Rising. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to your horoscopes. Mars moves into Taurus this week, and it's going to be there for about 3-4 weeks, and it is bringing an energy of consistency to all of us. Now, Mars for you is going to be in your 4th house of your foundation. And because Mars is moving into Taurus, which is a fixed earth sign, there's going to be a really strong emphasis on the literal foundation of your life, either with your physical housing or with your financial stability, with your health, whatever it is that you depend on to be able to live your life. That foundation is going to be brought to your attention. So sometimes that foundation is, am I getting enough sleep? How's my mental health? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. How's my emotional health? But there are going to be a few rare ones of you guys out there that this is going to be a literal representation of, like, your literal house. Nonetheless, Mars is going to show you where you might be too stuck in your ways, because Taurus is a fixed earth sign and you're a fixed air sign. So what's going to come up for you is any ways in which you are fixed in your ways, like stuck. You might realize that you are really stubborn, really resistant to change. You might realize that you are resistant to new information or different perspectives. You might realize that you're closed off in some way. And so it is going to come to your attention that you need to be a little bit more open-minded. One of the things that might come through is realizing that you are in your own way. And that's what's hard, because as an Aquarius sun or rising, you're a fixed air sign. So if you realize something, you lock into that and you don't see any reason to change your mind. You value your intelligence, you value intelligence in other people. But one of the ways in which you struggle is being too rigid in either what you think or how you think. So as this week, as the next few weeks progress, it is going to be really important to be honest and humble about, like, well, if it's not this and it's not this and it's not this, well, it might actually be me. That might be the problem, right? The other thing that's coming through is that Mercury is going to form a challenging square to Saturn this week, bringing a very serious energy. Maybe we're going to be feeling critical, or maybe we're going to be really focused on time, either feeling like we're running out of time or something along those lines. It's a very kind of depressed, heavy energy coming into our head spaces this week. And it might even come through in our communications. Mercury's in your 5th house, and so what you might be thinking about is how your pleasure and your enjoyment is really, really important to you. But that might come up against the values or the routines or needs or schedules of other people in your life, right? So for example, you know, if you're thinking, well, I don't get enough free time and I don't get enough time to myself and I don't want to work that many hours and I definitely don't want to work overtime, but then later you're like, well, I can't pay my bills and I don't have enough money. If you prioritize pleasure over work, you cannot complain that you don't have enough money. You know what I mean? So that would be, and it's just an example, right? But that's just one of the examples of how this might play out for you, is that if you are too rigid in what you think, what you want, what you're doing, what you believe, then you're going to be stuck for a really long time because you're not going to realize that it's you. That's the problem, right? So that might be a hard pill to swallow this week, but if you can be really, really, really honest about what the obstacle is, that's gonna, boom, open up a whole list of solutions and opportunities to move forwards, right? So as much as you can, rethink the starting point of your goals, rethink the pathway through which you would like to achieve and accomplish your goals, and then, you know, if you are just nowhere close to where you want to be, it is going to be about reevaluating, well, what is your process? What is your methodology? And kind of rethinking whether or not your approach is even going to get you anywhere close, right? We can't do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You might need inspiration. You might need more play. Maybe the issue for you is that you don't get to play enough. Maybe you're exhausted and don't have enough you time in which case you might need to schedule an opportunity every week or something like that to just get an hour to yourself or a few hours to yourself, right? As a solo parent, sometimes what I do is I do trade-offs with another solo parent, where, you know, one time it'll be my turn to watch all the kids so that she can go off and have a couple of hours to herself, and then we'll trade, right? She'll watch all the kids so that I can go off and have a couple of hours to myself. Barter is amazing. Connecting with your community is amazing. And believe in the power of creative solutions, because there is a way out of your situation. You just kind of need to rethink the bigger picture. That's all. Get consistent, get practical, get healthy, love yourself unconditionally, and I hope you guys have an amazing week. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time. Pisces Sun and Pisces Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. This week, Mars moves into Taurus. And Mars represents the action that we take, and Taurus is a fixed earth sign. So we're all going to be invited to be more consistent, more steady, more practical, more determined in our approach. For a lot of us, it's going to be about getting comfortable with boring routine, right? It's fun coming up with the ideas. It's fun celebrating at the end, but the middle part where you have to do the same thing over and over to be able to achieve the goal, the middle part sucks. That's Mars in Taurus. So we're all going to have to get comfortable with, you know, boring, steady application routines and all that kind of stuff. But Mars is going to help you achieve those results that you've been hoping for, whether it is a boost to your stamina, whether it is encouraging you to be more stubborn or more driven when it comes to accomplishing your goals. You are going to feel motivated to put things into action, and because Mars is going to be moving through your third house of connections, both personal and professional, you're going to be more motivated to take action when it comes to communicating your dreams, crowdsourcing help, reaching out to friends for social interaction, or networking when it comes to your business or your career. So manifestation, creation, action time. The only thing is that Mars is going to form a challenging square to Pluto this week. Pluto is in your 12th house. So what might come up for you this week is a need to really get clear on what's holding you back. If you're hesitating, why? Is it fear of failure? Is it insecurity? Is it a lack of confidence? Is it feeling like maybe you're not ready, you're not prepared? But if it's always a mystery obstacle holding you back, that is the mystery that needs to be solved this week. So if you have any realizations, take notes. If you have an amazing brainstorming session with a friend, maybe record it, maybe write it down, right? But this is going to be a fantastic week for you to think outside of the box and get inspired, get moving, take some action, do the thing. The other influence this week is going to be a very heavy, very serious influence of Mercury square Saturn. It's a very critical energy. It's either I suck or they suck or my idea sucks or nobody's gonna like it. It's gonna fail anyway. It's really important not to pop the tires before we even get out on the road. Right, guys? Using a lot of metaphors in the horoscopes today. Don't deflate your own efforts with negative thinking. This is a great opportunity to just give it a shot and see what happens. If it fails, well, at least you tried. But if you don't try, for the rest of your life, you're going to be like, oh, maybe I should have. And it's going to be a source of internal struggle and conflict. At least if you try and it fails, you can be like, well, whatever. At least I tried. Now I can let go of it. But if you try and you succeed, what then, my dear? Right? So you are establishing a new foundation of self-expression. You are reforming kind of who you are. It started with reforming who you are in your own eyes. And now it's like you're presenting the new you to the world around you, to your friends, to your community, to society, whatever it is. And so you may feel a little bit awkward coming out of your shell, but the amazing thing is that you are going to be more practical. You are going to be more realistic. It's going to be easier for you over the next few weeks to take practical action when maybe in the past, maybe typically your baseline is kind of just swimming and going with the flow. This week is going to be easier for you to stay on task, be regimented, be practical, maybe knock some things off of your to-do list and stuff like that. Being purposeful and being mindful. That's the name of the game. So please, as much as you can, check yourself for self-defeating thoughts. Kick those suckers out of your headspace. Come up with a mantra that, you know, if you have negative thoughts come up, you can respond with a mantra, you can respond with music, you can respond with dancing, like that little inflatable guy in front of car dealerships. Make yourself laugh, right? It's going to be a heavy, serious week, so as much as you can, make yourself laugh, make your friends laugh, be that silly, silly influence that you know you love to be, and then get down to business. I hope you have an amazing week, you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.